Hello, hello. Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven. And tonight is a Friday night movie talk. And our topic of discussion tonight is, well, quite the horrific film. Marvel's Man Thing from 2005 during the Avi Arad era, which is always quite frightening. My guests at this time, as always, John Norris and Monsterfan.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Well, I guess we should just get right into the muck, shouldn't we? Man Thing, 2005, rated R. Directed by Brett Leonard, written by Hans Rodionoff, based on Man Thing, according to Wikipedia now, by Stan Lee, who had nothing to do with this. He never had anything to do with the character or the movie. Roy Thomas, Gray Morrow, Jerry Conway, and Steve Gerber. It was mostly Steve Gerber and Jerry Conway. I think Gray Morrow might have been the original illustrator. Produced by Avi Arad, Scott Carroll, Gamel Everett, and Christopher Petzel, starring Matthew Lenevitz, Rachel Taylor, Jack Thompson, and Conan Stevens as Man Thing. And North 3 is in the room. Says evening to everyone.
Hey, Norris.
Production companies, Lionsgate Films, which is really not a production company. We'll talk more about. They are a production company, but they weren't actually the producers of this film. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Artisan Entertainment, Fierce Entertainment, Marvel Enterprises, and Screenland Movie World. Distributed by Sci-Fi Pictures, a.k.a. the Sci-Fi Channel. There was a release date of April 30th, 2005 in the U.S. for a small, short theatrical release, but it was pulled, and it went back on the Sci-Fi Channel. Running time of 1 hour, 37 minutes. It had a budget between $5 and $7.5 million estimate, and the box office in the theater was $1.1 million. What it's about. I don't know. This movie opens in the swamplands called Dark Waters, a Native American sacred land containing an enigmatic swamp spirit. Two teens are out partying with friends and step away from the crowd to hook up for some sex when the male is murdered by a plant-like monster, even though we never actually see the monster. The following day, the young replacement sheriff Kyle Williams reaches the scene and meets with Deputy Sheriff Frazier, who tells him that the previous sheriff is among 47 missing persons since oil tycoon Fred Schist, also known as the Shits, bought the ancient tribal lands from shaman and Seminole chieftain Ted Salas, which, what? But we'll get into that in a minute, who was the first of the people to disappear. Schist claims that Salas sold him the lands legally and then fled away from the reservation with the money. Schist then asked the sheriff for help. Local protesters have opposed his perfectly legal activities, and then an individual named Rene LaRoque has been sabotaging his drilling facilities. So Sheriff Williams, or acting Sheriff Williams, investigates these claims while trying to find a connection, an explanation for the missing people, some of which were found brutally murdered with plants growing from inside of them. Photographer Mike Plug and shaman Pete Horn. Wait, there's more than one shaman for the reservation? Yeah. Tell Williams local legends about the guardian spirit, suggesting that it could be real. As the facility sabotages and murders continue, Williams investigates the swamp with Frazier and finds the previous sheriff's corpse. Medical examiner Val Mayerick admits that the previous sheriff had ordered him to file the deaths as alligator attacks, even if he believed otherwise. William and Frazier try to track LaRoque, who lives in the swamp, by using a canoe. At the same time, Schist sends the Thibodeau brothers, who are local thugs, to track and murder LaRoque. The monster in the swamp finds the Thibodeau brothers and kills them. Williams then is ensnared by LaRoque, who admits to having helped Schist buy the lands. LaRoque claims that Salas was opposed to the sale, and LaRoque insists that the Guardian Spirit would keep on murdering until Schiss stops desecrating the sacred swamp. Fraser tries to help LaRoque, but the Man-Thing appears and murders Fraser. LaRoque knocks Williams down and escapes. Williams escapes and finds Plug, who has buried pictures of the monster, and the sheriff seizes the photographs and forbids Plug to come back to the swamp. We don't need to show this stuff. The following day, Williams then interviews Horn and Schiss with the help of school teacher Terry Richards' help. Williams then starts to have romantic feelings for Richards. Of course, because there's a woman, somebody has to have romantic feelings for him. Horn goes to the swamp and tries to stop the Man-Thing with prayers and sacrificing his own life. The monster then kills Horn, but it is not otherwise affected by Horn's efforts. That night, Merrick autopsies the old sheriff and finds a bullet. He tries to tell Williams, but he's back at the swamp and is unreachable because they don't have cell phones in 2005, apparently, or there's just not signal service or whatever. Merrick tells Richards, and of course she goes into the swamp on her own to find and tell Williams. Meanwhile, Plug has returned to the swamp because he just is determined to get a picture of the monster. Instead, he startles Schiss, who was in the swamp, to murder LaRoque. And of course, Schiss then turns around and kills Plug because he can't have Plug knowing he's around. Soon afterward, LaRoque ambushes and defeats Schiss' son and minion, Jake. Williams finds Plug's corpse and figures out that Schiss has murdered Plug. He then, of course, puts all the pieces together and assumes that Schiss is actually the one who's killing all these people. He then meets Richards, who tells him about Merrick's autopsy with the old sheriff. And, obviously, he's, this kind of clutches it for him. He knows that Schiss is guilty of the murders and is trying to incriminate LaRoque instead of, just to avoid punishment. According to Schiss' confession to LaRoque, he had murdered Salas and buried him in the dark waters. Due to the magic embedded in the soil, Salas has returned as the Man-Thing. Richard reveals that she can guide Williams to LaRoque's lair, but the Man-Thing starts chasing them. He chases the duo to the drilling tower at Dark Waters, and in the tower, Schiss is leveling his weapon at LaRoque in an attempt to prevent LaRoque from blowing it away with dynamite. And as LaRoque tries to detonate his bomb, he is shot and wounded by Schiss, who then wounds Williams as well. Then the Man-Thing, this is where the Man-Thing breaks through the wall, isn't it?
I think it was earlier.
It was earlier. You're right. Anyway, he arrives and brutally murders Schiss, and by filling his blood with his body with the oil that he's trying to drill. The Man-Thing then moves toward Williams and Richards, but LaRoque sacrifices himself, shouting at the monster and detonating his dynamite bomb. The monster survives the flames, but somehow is absorbed back into the land, which miraculously Williams and Richards leave this explosion unharmed. And that's pretty much the movie. Notable facts. The characters Mike Plug, Steve Gerber, and Val Merrick are all semi-based on the real-life comic creators who each worked on the Man-Thing comic series over the decades. Now, if only the story had been based on anything they'd actually done. This is sort of them trying to retell the Swamp Thing's origins as Man-Thing instead of doing the actual story of the character. And there's reason for this, but we'll get into that in a moment. Producer Avi Arad later admitted that Marvel did not really pay attention to the production, largely due to the film being shot overseas in Australia, and that it was a catastrophe in part because of them not overseeing the actual production of the film. The film was supposed to receive a major theatrical release, but didn't, to several unclear factors. But possibly Marvel tried to block it. It was delayed over 6 months after the film was completed and put forth to test audiences by Lionsgate, who had acquired Artisan Entertainment at the 11th hour, along with all the film rights to that property, as well as several other characters, including The Punisher, which is how we got the 2004 Punisher movie with Thomas Jane. This film was actually supposed to release in August 2004 to, full theatrical release. But the test reaction was so bad, they shelved it until Lionsgate insisted upon releasing it, at which point Marvel and Lionsgate had to negotiate a joint agreement with NBC as a sci-fi original film. Okay. Let's start with John.
Okay. Well, so first of all, I know of the character of Man-Thing, but I've never read his origins in the comics. I know of him because he's guest starred in other comics that I've happened to read over the years, and so I went in not knowing Man-Thing's origins, and even I was going, wait a minute, is this Man-Thing or Swamp Thing that they're trying to do here? And Lewis and I have reviewed the recent CW Swamp Thing show before, and it felt like that's what they were trying to do, only the CW Swamp Thing was so much better than this. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Let's see what North Free had to say here. The only good thing about this movie was Man-Thing's face, especially the eyes. Okay, that's reasonable. He doesn't have branches growing out of his back in the comic. I think given the time they tried to copy Treebeard from the Lord of the Rings movies, which in itself was wrong. I don't know. That's interesting thought. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Okay, that's not a bad thing there. Yeah, part of it, like we say, is I knew this was going to be a bad movie. Because first off, it's a Marvel movie on Sci-Fi Channel. I mean, yeah. But I didn't know it was going to be this bad. I didn't realize they were going to throw out the entire origins of the character. This film is first off, I can't believe they ever actually released it. But at the same time, is the acting of what the actors were given to do, was the acting bad?
Well, not to say that it was good, because it wasn't, but
I mean, no, there's certainly no award performances in this thing. But I mean, is it really any worse than the typical schlock movies that the BC movie schlock? I don't think it is any worse than that.
I wouldn't. I mean, not that I've seen a lot of those types of Sci-Fi Channel movies, but I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, yeah, the acting was about pretty much what you would expect.
Okay, your thoughts on that, Monsterfan?
I thought the acting was adequate for what it was.
That's about what I would say. It was adequate. Yeah, I didn't think it was.
That certainly wasn't the worst aspect of the movie.
No,
for me, the worst aspect of the movie was the script.
Yeah,
and the failure to keep Man-Thing to his origin, and all this nonsense about the shamans and everything, which the script turned Man-Thing into a Lovecraftian nature spirit monster.
Mm-hmm. That's not what Man-Thing is at all.
Right.
And I just didn't think that the acting or the special effects. I mean, yes, I realize that Swamp Thing doesn't have the tree going out the back of his neck and stuff. But as far as if this was not called Man-Thing and was called something else, we'd probably be giving it better rating than we are going to be giving it. I just don't think that was the issue with the film. I think it was, like you say, it was a script. But there was problems going on, and I think, in the book, Ted Sallis is a scientist who's working on reconstructing the super soldier formula for Captain America, and I don't think they were allowed to use it in the script because the rights to Captain America were at the time tied up with another company, whether that was Orion Pictures or someone else.
Okay.
So I think that might have been why they couldn't do that. And so I get that, because there's elements there you couldn't cite, but you didn't have to have Ted Sallis as a Seminole chieftain shaman and make it about land grabs and stuff like that. I don't think. I think you could have had him still be the scientist and still had his wife betray him and bring in AIM as the villains, because AIM has never really been used anywhere before. Trying to get his formulas and just not mention the super soldier Captain America connection. They could have done that. I just, I don't know. I think it works as a cheap-ass knockoff of Swamp Thing. But that's not what the film should have been at all. And as much as Avi Arad has publicly apologized for this film, his excuses for how this got made and why they didn't catch it don't really wash for me. I mean, okay, you were too cheap to send someone to Australia to oversee the production of the film. Why?
Yeah.
And on top of that, somebody had to approve the shooting script,
Right.
before they went to production, and this script has nothing to do with Swamp Thing. So why would you approve it? So, or pardon me, with Man Thing. I keep screwing up those two names. They're so similar. But anyway, yeah, it's not good, like you say. I don't know. It's crazy. Was anyone else surprised by the amount of gore in the film?
Yes, there is a lot. I mean, the first hour of the movie is kind of like, these modern TV shows with the forensics people looking at corpses and pieces of bodies, and it was pretty graphic stuff.
Well, not even just that. I mean, just like the first 3 to 5 minutes of the film, we get 2 teenagers humping in a swamp, full and frontal nudity, blood from the guy getting gored by the swamp, by the Man Thing monster, and it just pours all over her front chest. I'm like, what is this? It's not what I would have expected in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Not even a horror film from Marvel. I was like, what? Really? They proved this? They approved this script to do this? Wow. And I didn't see the version on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm almost wondering how much was edited out, because I can't imagine that they would have shown that on Sci-Fi Channel.
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of makes you wonder what's going on. Unfortunately, given this bomb, I don't think we'll get another Man Thing. Well, you remember, that was 17 years ago. And since then, we've had the Swamp Thing HBO Max series that was relaunched on CW and aired on that. And, of course, Man Thing has just appeared as a guest star in the new Werewolf by Night one-shot that they did on Disney+. So I wouldn't say that either character is completely out of reach as far as having a mass audience film release. North also says Roy Thomas revealed this week at Pop XP that he thinks both Man Thing and Swamp Thing were born of his earlier creation, The Blob. The Blob or the Bog? I don't know, but yeah, that's why Roy Thomas was, in fact, given some creative acknowledgement in the credits in the film. I think that's part of why. Let's see what's going on over here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I think the acting was a little bit stale and rough in places, but was it because the acting was bad, or was it because of the bad script, that they were working from? I don't know. I think this could have worked as a generic horror movie called something else, and gone straight to DVD releases, like a lot of the films that I've picked at times that John has not liked. But it's not.
Another one to the list.
Huh? Yeah.
We'll add this one to the list.
But but this is not Man-Thing to me. I don't think it's, so I'm not crushed by the disappointment per se. I know you two kind of were, but I think I'm not crushed because I kind of expected something, not this bad, but I expected it to be bad, But I kind of feel like, to all the fanboys who were complaining to me that I don't talk about the modern MCU, and and they complain all over the internet about how much the Marvel Comics movies suck and the Marvel TV shows suck. You want to see a show that sucks? Try this. Then maybe you'll shut up about the modern Marvel, because the modern Marvel is so much better than this, even if you don't care for it. Of course, it is rated R. John, rating.
I never do this, but if any film warrants it, it's this one. A big fat 0. And understand, like you, I wasn't expecting it to be good, but it's rare that I have trouble finding a single positive thing to say about a movie, but here we go. To me, the most creative thing they did was name 3 characters after Marvel Comics creators. And that's it. And if someone like me who watches this movie, knowing nothing about Man-Thing's proper origin, and if even I go, this isn't Man-Thing, something's got to be wrong, And there's a scene where one of the Thibodeau characters, goes and literally takes a dump in the swamp, and that is pretty much my feeling about this movie. It was just a piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I almost never say about movies, but this one was special.
Okay. Pop Culture asks, was the company that produced this movie the same company who made numerous cheesy movies for Sci-Fi Channel? I don't think it was. Artisan Entertainment actually did National Lampoon's Van Wilder. They did the Blair Witch Project, Killing Zoe, quite a few other films. But there's, they had a bunch of different film libraries and home video rights to stuff. So some of the other stuff that produced other smaller production companies might have been in there that did stuff with them. As Live Entertainment, they co-produced Reservoir Dogs, and I don't know, The Arrival with Orion Pictures, and a lot of other films. that are actually pretty well appreciated. So I don't know. I think I'm trying to think of the company that did a certain film that. Let me check something real quick here. I think you're talking about IDT Entertainment, which is part of Stars, who was also a subsidiary of Lionsgate, and they did a lot of stuff for that went to sci-fi. So I think that's probably what you're thinking, and so that could be what you were referring to. Let's see. North 3 says 3/4 of a star for the face of the. Okay, Monsterfan, how much do you give it?
Are you allowed to give a half star?
Absolutely.
Well, then I would give this a half star, and I'll tell you why. The script, as we've discussed at some length, was abominable.
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing doesn't actually appear until I believe it's like 73 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, Man Thing. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Man Thing. I'm sorry. I'm doing the same thing.
I was doing it all day. It's so.
And he's not really the Man Thing that I know from the comics, so that's another half a star off.
Mm-hmm.
I give it half a star because there are a couple scenes that for a monster film are pretty good. My favorite scene is you have this guy who's like a plant manager or something at this site,
Mm-hmm.
who's got very racial ideas, and he says them publicly to the new sheriff, so he's going to bite the dust. And Man Thing hunts him down, and he hides in the office on the site, and Man Thing bursts through the wall, and you don't actually see all you see from Man Thing's perspective that this is happening. And then the next day when the sheriff arrives, there's this enormous hole in the wall that shows where Man Thing just went right through the plaster. And that I thought was actually very well done. And that's about the only scene that I can think of. So I'll give it half a star for that.
All right. Hold on a second. I'm going to turn my camera off a minute. Sorry about that. Had to sneeze. But yeah.
I would not recommend this movie to anybody. You're wasting your time.
Yeah. Pop Culture says, I'm surprised there's never been a Man Thing, Swamp Thing comic crossover. And, well, what we're going to call one Swampy and one Manny. Or Thing 1 and Thing 2.
and the Thing will make a guest appearance.
Right. There you go. And they're going to look at him and go, what's with you? You're not.
It's clobbering time.
No, anyway. But yeah. I'll give it 1. I just I don't know. I guess I'm being generous, but I'll give it 1 just to be nice. Yeah, I just, there you go. There's your 1 star from me. So we're all in about the range of half a star in general for all of us.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I wish that this had been an actual storyline akin to the original story, but who knows? Maybe we'll see that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point, because he is in the Werewolf by Night, and hopefully they'll do something with Werewolf by Night. That's
Marvel. If Marvel weren't so bad these days, I would suggest that they come up with a movie or perhaps a series of movies or a short TV series of the Midnight Sun group, having them do something. But
yeah.
Marvel being what it is now, just stay away from their characters.
But anyway, so that's pretty much our talk for tonight. Sorry that I picked the bad one right before Halloween, guys. I didn't know it was going to be this bad. I mean, I figured we were going to have a good laugh with it, but we can't even really laugh at this one. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's not one of those so bad it's good movies.
Yeah.
It's just poorly done in every respect.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's definitely so bad it's bad.
Right.
And Pop Culture says he's giving it a 1.5 because he's tired of being disappointed by new movies with millions of dollar budgets. At least you knew this was going to be bad when you went going in, so you couldn't be too disappointed. Well, this film had a $5 to $7 million budget. Where did the money go on that one?
Did they use a real swamp? They must have.
Yeah. Well, they shot it on location in Australia.
Are there swamps in Australia?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I thought it was all deserts.
Yeah. They didn't even have Man-Thing's Burning Touch. Yeah. They couldn't because what is there to do? I mean, you can't really describe the whole point of the Burning Touch for those who know fear when you haven't even discussed what it actually is that the character is. It's kind of weird, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Pop Culture is being the most generous of all of us, I think.
He likes bad movies, so.
Yeah, I would love to see that more, and who knows? Maybe what I should do is I should write a Man-Thing movie script and send it to Kevin Feige and see what they come up with. Anyway, next week is going to be a much better choice. We're going to be talking about.
Any choice would be a much better choice.
Oh, I can come up with worse than this. Trust me. But next week, Monsterfan had mentioned the possibility of doing westerns, and I was looking through my list, and we just didn't have very many westerns on the list, even though John and I had done them in the past. And I didn't want to repeat something we'd already done, so I looked for something, and this is what I came up with, was Westworld, the classic 1973 film from Warner Brothers with Yul Brynner and James Brolin. So that's what we're going to watch for next week. And that seems like a much better film choice for us. Unfortunately, John won't be with us next week. He has another medical appointment next week. Now, don't be mean. Pop, come on.
He would certainly need medical care after that.
I would never appear on this show again.
I would never do that to you. You know that.
Yeah, but would Pop Culture Avenger do that to me? That's the question.
No.
Once was more than enough.
So that's all for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for watching. And again, we'll be back next week on Friday. We'll talk about Westworld. And on Monday, I will be back to discuss 2 episodes probably. I'm going to talk about the new previews catalog and the other books that are coming out in the catalogs. And then we're going to do a Halloween movie, or not movie, but a comic book review with Creep Show and 2 other books. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I don't have them right here about it either, unfortunately. Count Crawley and Criminal Macabre is one shot was one of the other ones. So that'll be on Halloween night. So he's just teasing you, John.
Yeah.
And so again, we wish John luck with his procedure next week.
Absolutely.
And so Monsterfan and I will be here for Westworld next week, and we'll see if we can get someone else to join us as well. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Cleanse your palate and read some Lovecraft.
And stay safe out there, folks.
If you guys like this episode, or you think others might, hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. Social media. You can find me on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, on Twitter at LewisBrightRaven2. You can see some of my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright exclusively on YouTube. Comments, suggestions for other films or books to review or something like that. Quoth the Raven LBR72@gmail.com is the address to reach me at. If I don't get back to you in a day or two, try LewisBrightRaven@yahoo.com. See you next time. Have a good one.